Hey guys, how's it going? Um, Behind me is a view of what I see every day, which is the opposite building across the street. And they're probably quarantined. I hope so. I hope everyone's quarantined, staying at home. I just really wanted to give you an update. I'm not going to do Funko Pop videos or video game videos today. I'm just going to chat with you a little bit about being an INFJ. So, INFJs, I've noticed. Okay, so I'm speaking purely from my own perspective. So this is anecdotal, but I'm speaking also from intuition, which tells me that we have trust issues. We have problems trusting, and of course, this is coming from purely from my experience. I have trouble trusting anyone or anything for the most part. I don't know if this is coming from my childhood or this is a result of the childhood or the upbringing that I had, but I'm going to assume that it's a personality trait because I think INFJs are very cautious when it comes to making decisions, because it doesn't mean we're slow to make decisions. I think we have the capability of making decisions quickly through practice and over time, but I think we do have trouble making decisions sometimes because we have to analyze everything and analyze every possible outcome, which makes it very difficult for us to choose the decision that has a risk to it. I don't think naturally INFJs are risk takers. I'm just going to be straight up and honest about it. I'm not the biggest risk taker. I don't skydive. I don't parachute or do like that weird squirrel suit thing where you jump off and then you fly through whatever. I'm just trying to be funny there, but it's probably not working. Anyway, yeah, so when it comes to anything or anybody, I'm always questioning what's going to happen. Like, all right, so you want to talk to me about something, you want to tell me something, you want to sell me something. I'm just waiting to see what your motive is. What are you all about? What is the true agenda? Because as an INFJ, I always am cognizant and realize that there is always some sort of underlying issue or underlying motive going on that is below the surface. I live pretty much under the surface most of the time, always looking for the subtleties, always looking for the unseen, the unrecognizable. I have trouble playing video games because I'm always wondering what is happening in all the nooks and crannies of the environment, which is why I play video games where I really don't need to concentrate on that as much. I found that when I do start to try something new, I'm constantly just looking out for something to just jump out at me and attack me. And this makes sense. I think in order for a population to progress, in order to become what it is today, for survival's sake, you need a couple here and there that are over analytical and overly understanding of the possibilities that may put us in danger. I had this conversation with another INFJ. His name's Chris. Shout out to Chris. We talked about how we both are always questioning what is the motive. What is the motive behind all this? Like, you want to be my friend? Okay, well, what is your motive? What is your agenda? Do you have an agenda? In some ways, it is a sort of a projection, if that's what you're thinking. Like, oh, maybe you're just projecting. Maybe you think that, oh, people will have an agenda is because you always have an agenda. And I'm not afraid to admit that sometimes that's the case. Like, I don't do everything because it's just, it's charity work, or I don't do things all the time because I just want to and I feel good doing it. Sometimes I do have an agenda. Sometimes I need to get something done. In order to do that, I have to put on a smile or put on a face or be friendly and be nice and say nice things, because it's my way of maintaining the harmony in the environment around me. We have to let this go, though. And this is part of MBTI and learning about your personality is we learn about our personalities because we understand ourselves better and we understand other people better. And the whole point isn't to say that one type is better than the other, or the other types have it all wrong and we have it all right. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And MBTI really just helps us understand that we go about solving daily life and daily situations through different perspectives, through different functions. We have different functions in our brains. Our brains have different mechanics. But at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, really, is to survive and to have offspring and to enjoy life, because we have that luxury in which we have our basic needs. However, we want to enjoy the rest of what life can offer because we have everything that we need. When we come into a situation like this where we're in a pandemic and everybody is getting sick or staying home and our survival mode switch goes on, we're much less concerned about the frivolous things, all the extra is something that we don't really care for as much as making sure that we have food, making sure that we have water, making sure that we are able to get a paycheck. It's all very important, and the less important tends to slip away. Going back to the main point, which is, yes, we need to learn to let go of this anxiety that we experience because of our lack of trust, because of our mistrust of others and other things. We will get trapped if we do. We'll get trapped in this feeling of not being able to trust, and that we getting into a trap of negative thinking and negative outcome thinking, which is why our greatest matches suggestive, like supposedly are ENTPs and ENFPs, is because somehow, because of their functions, and I think it's an extroverted perceiver, like anybody who is extroverted and also perceiver has more of a positive outlook just naturally. I don't know the details of how that becomes a thing, but I have learned throughout my life ESFPs, ESTPs, ENFPs, ENTPs, they all have a very positive outlook of how things can play out. Whereas introverted and judging types, we tend to have a more negative, more critical, more just a darker outlook of how things can play out. Understanding this, understanding MBTI, understanding why we have this more critical or darker outlook of what may play out, especially in times like, pandemics. We can also notice and understand and realize that other personality types don't have that same outlook, that there's a very biological, psychological process happening that helps them see a more, like extroverted perceiver types, see a more positive outlook. And honestly, like anybody can be positive, anybody could be a negative person, but I think there is a tendency of having the opposite outlooks, where introverted judging types have a more cautious way of proceeding, because we need to gather all that information before we can make, before we really hone in on something, and then we're just go, because we've already made that pre-analysis. Whereas it's the opposite for extroverted perceiver types. They're just go, and then they learn along the way in the short term rather than a long term, in my opinion. But we're all capable of any way of any style of behavior, I believe. But at the end of the day, we still have the natural tendencies. So knowing that, as an INFJ, I believe it's really important that we understand that we do have that tendency. And once we recognize that we have that tendency, we can now learn from other types, learn from other ways of being, to relieve ourselves of the anxiety, relieve ourselves of the negativity or the darker way of seeing things, and to understand that, yes, we can look at it in an analytical way and seeing a negative outcome, and it's highly possible that things can play out the way we intuit them, but we can't be obsessed with them, because we could easily be wrong. The key is to have the balance of the two, if that makes sense. So the next time you're trying something new, or something new is happening, for example, like right now we're all locked into our homes. I shouldn't say locked in. I heard somebody say, we're not stuck at home, we're safe at home. And that's how we should really look at how our situation is. We're really lucky. We're lucky if we get to stay at home, because not everybody gets to do that. And kudos to the people who are working and keeping society running as best as we can while we're working through all these problems. The next time you do feel that darker outlook, INFJs, remember that not everybody sees it that way. And a lot of people actually don't see it that way. They see it the opposite way, where they're optimistic and be like, oh, yeah, I don't think, it's not a big deal. We're going to get out of this. And of course, we should be looking at, we should be looking to health experts. We should be looking to health experts for really the information and forming opinion. We have to have that evidence and statements from people who are actually do this for a living, rather than just somebody on the news who has no credentials or isn't a health expert or isn't a scientist, whatever. We'll never know exactly where this information is coming from, but we can have a good idea of who to trust just by listening to who they are and watching who they are, which is why I recommend getting evidence or getting information from videos rather than written word, because it's a lot easier to lie in writing, in my opinion, than it is to see them in person. Get out of that dark cloud, ominous cloud way of thinking, because it's not going to serve you well. At some point, you have to take action. At some point, you have to make a decision that you're going to not let it control you and not let it suppress you, that you have the freedom and the power to be courageous and to take action. I hope this makes sense, INFJs. I hope none of you are mad at me, but you can't. If you're mad at me, that's fine. Just sometimes we need a bit of tough love, and I don't know why that made me feel really cringy to say that. I think it's because it wasn't genuine. What I mean is, yes, let's be more open-minded. Set aside ego. When we set aside ego, we can learn new things and improve ourselves, and our lives will get better as we improve ourselves. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. I hope this is of good use to you, and I will see you in my next video. All right, take care, stay safe.